Deep in the heart of Brazil, a discovery has stunned scientists and explorers alike. Vast tunnels stretching for miles beneath the rainforest appear to be entirely natural, but no human could have built them. The walls hum with a strange energy. The formations are perfectly aligned, yet impossibly organic. What created them? And how old are they? Today we journey into the depths of Brazil's most mysterious underground tunnels places no human has ever truly understood. The Amazon rainforest had always held secrets. Its dense canopy hid creatures, ruins, and rivers unknown to most of the world. But scientists had never expected this. It started with a satellite scan. A team studying geological formations noticed strange anomalies beneath the soil. Linear patterns, perfectly aligned, stretching for miles. At first, they thought it was a natural cave system, but the shapes were different. It's irregular too. Be random. Too vast for early human civilizations. Excavation began in secret. The first tunnel entrance was found under a thick layer of soil, hidden by centuries of fallen trees and moss. When explorers first shone their lights into the darkness, a chill ran down their spines. The tunnels stretched endlessly, twisting and turning in ways that made maps almost impossible. Inside, the walls were smooth but uneven, formed with strange grooves and ridges. No tool marks were visible, no sign of human construction. And yet the tunnels were connected in perfect alignment, like veins in a body. They seemed almost alive. Geologists were baffled. It's not natural, and it's not man-made, one scientist admitted. I have no idea what could have created this. Carbon dating of soil samples indicated that the tunnels had existed for tens of thousands of years. Far earlier than any known civilization in the area, explorers reported strange phenomena. Sounds echoed strangely even when no one was speaking. Some said the walls seemed to pulse faintly, almost like breathing. Air currents moved in unnatural patterns, cold in some sections, warm in others. The deeper they went, the more otherworldly the environment felt. The tunnels were not empty. Small crystals embedded in the rock reflected the explorers' lights in eerie colors, blues, greens, and silvers. Some seemed to hum faintly, like energy trapped in stone. Scientists had no explanation. They collected samples, careful not to touch too much, fearing they might disturb something ancient and powerful. Local tribes had stories, passed down for centuries. They spoke of the veins of the earth, mysterious pathways that were alive and watching. Until now, archaeologists dismissed these tales as myths. But with the discovery of the tunnels, these legends suddenly seemed real, and then there were the first unexplained findings. Carvings on the walls, faint symbols that did not match any known language. They appeared naturally formed, yet some patterns were deliberate, symmetrical, and precise. It was as if the earth itself had written a message in stone, waiting for humans to notice. Explorers pressed on, deeper into the darkness. The tunnels branched endlessly, creating labyrinths with no clear beginning or end. Some passages led to large chambers, cavernous spaces that seemed impossible, with ceilings hundreds of feet high. Inside, air shimmered, as if charged with invisible energy. The first steps into the tunnels felt unreal. The light from the explorers' flashlights barely reached the walls, which stretched endlessly into darkness. Every footstep echoed loudly, yet the sound bounced strangely, as if the tunnels were listening. Dr. Ana Ribeiro, the lead geologist, paused to examine the walls. The grooves carved into the rock were too precise for erosion, yet too organic for tools. It was as if the stone had grown into these forms. Some sections were smooth and polished, while others were jagged, forming natural-looking patterns that defied explanation. The deeper they descended, the colder it became. The temperature dropped several degrees, yet in certain chambers, pockets of warmth appeared, as though the tunnels had their own weather system. Strange winds moved against them, pushing and pulling without reason. Scientists measured the air currents, but the patterns made no sense. The atmosphere was alive. Then came the first crystal formations. Tiny glowing structures emerged from the walls, reflecting light in shades of blue, green, and violet. Some hummed faintly, almost like a low vibration or heartbeat. When touched, the crystals seemed to pulse with energy, sending tingling sensations up the explorer's arms. Anna shivered, realizing they were not just minerals, they were something else. Something alive, in one chamber the team discovered. Symbols etched into the stone. At first glance they looked random, like natural fractures, but closer inspection revealed symmetry and design. They resembled a code mathematical, perhaps, but no known civilization had created anything like it. The patterns twisted and curved with the tunnel's architecture, as if the walls themselves were trying to communicate. Some explorers began reporting hallucinations. Shadows appeared to move on their own. Whispers echoed faintly in the distance. Lights flickered in patterns that resembled shapes and faces. The scientific team was skeptical at first, blaming exhaustion. But the phenomena persisted, even among those well-rested. It was as if the tunnels had a consciousness. Water trickled along certain sections of the tunnels, clear and cold. When sampled, it contained minerals unknown to science. Even stranger, small, glowing organisms floated within it, tiny bioluminescent shapes that defied classification. Some seemed to pulse and sync with the crystals in the walls, hinting at an unseen connection beneath the surface. Explorers pressed on, finding massive chambers that opened into ceilings hundreds of feet above. Natural skylights, possibly formed by ancient seismic activity, allowed faint light from the surface to penetrate. In those spaces, the glow of crystals reflected like stars, creating a celestial scene underground. At one point, a massive tunnel split into 3 paths. Each seemed to pulse differently. One felt cold and still, another warm and vibrating. The third was eerily silent, as if absorbing all sound. The team argued over which path to take. Curiosity pushed them forward, despite the danger. Local legends became terrifyingly real here. Indigenous stories spoke of the living tunnels, veins of the earth that were conscious, guiding or testing those who entered. Scientists had always dismissed these tales. But now, as walls seemed to shift imperceptibly and light pulsed in strange patterns, they wondered if the legends were warnings, not myths. The deeper they went, the more impossible it became to map the tunnels. They twisted, curved, and looped in ways that defied geometry. GPS devices failed. Compasses spun uncontrollably. Even time seemed altered. Explorers reported hours passing in minutes, shadows stretching impossibly long, a constant feeling of being watched. Then came the first discovery that shook the team to its core, a massive underground lake, perfectly still. Its surface reflected the crystal lights above, like a mirror. In its center floated a stone structure, not carved, but formed naturally into geometric shapes that resembled pyramids. It was perfectly symmetrical. No human culture had ever made anything like it, yet it was organic, grown from the earth itself. Anna whispered, "This isn't a cave. This isn't geology. It's something else. It's something alive." The deeper the explorers went, the more the tunnels seemed to change. Walls that had once felt solid now appeared to pulse faintly, like the veins of some immense living organism. Even the air seemed charged, vibrating slightly with a rhythm that no instrument could explain. Dr. Anna Ribeiro led the team carefully, every footstep echoing in the darkness. Light from their flashlights bounced off jagged formations, revealing strange patterns in the rock grooves, ridges, and spirals that curved impossibly. It was as if the tunnels themselves were breathing, alive with intention. Stranger still were the sounds. Soft whispers echoed down distant corridors, though no one spoke. Occasionally a deep humming resonated from the walls, vibrating through bones. The explorers' instruments measured nothing unusual, yet every human on the team felt it. A low frequency that stirred unease in the chest and mind. Some chambers were filled with crystals, more intricate and bizarre than those above. They glowed faintly in synchronized pulses, like a heartbeat. When the explorers approached, the light brightened, as if acknowledging their presence. Anna could not explain why the crystals reacted to humans, but she felt certain they were connected. to the tunnel's very life. And then came the first anomalies. Small stones rolled along the floors, not pushed by gravity, but guided along specific paths. Water droplets rose from underground streams, hovering for a moment before falling in unusual arcs. The team realized that the tunnels seemed to bend. Physics itself was creating localized environments that obeyed rules different from the outside world. In one of the largest chambers, the team discovered a series of massive stone formations. They were not carved, yet perfectly geometric hexagons, triangles and spirals interlocked naturally. It was as if the earth itself had grown these forms for a purpose, deliberately. Anna ran her hands along the smooth edges, feeling vibrations. Beneath her fingers, the stone hummed faintly, alive. Explorers also began noticing subtle messages hidden in the walls. Natural fractures in rock created patterns resembling symbols. They twisted and curved in complex designs, impossible to replicate, artificially. For the first time, the team wondered if the tunnels themselves were trying to communicate, leaving encoded messages in crystal and stone for those capable of understanding. Local legends grew more real in this depth. Tribes spoke of the veins of the earth, tunnels that were alive and could guide, punish, or protect. Explorers had laughed at these tales at first, dismissing them as myth. Now, in the glow of pulsing crystals and the whispering corridors, Ina realized that these stories might not be stories at all. They might be warnings. As they ventured further, the labyrinth began to branch endlessly. Some paths looped impossibly, curving back on themselves. Others led to vertical shafts, plunging into darkness that no light could reach. The explorers' equipment struggled. GPS signals vanished. Compasses spun wildly. Even time seemed distorted. Hours felt like minutes. Shadows stretched or shortened without explanation. Water systems in the tunnels also behaved strangely. Streams that should have flowed downhill ran uphill for short distances. Puddles shimmered with faint iridescent colors. Tiny bioluminescent organisms floated on the surface, pulsating in sync with the crystals embedded in walls. Anna hypothesized that the tunnels were alive, and that every element, stone, water, and crystal functioned as part of a single, conscious system. And then, the first truly terrifying discovery, a faint heat source deep in the labyrinth. Not from magma, not from sunlight, but something organic. As the team approached, the walls seemed to contract slightly, guiding them along a path. A low hum filled the chamber, vibrating in harmony with the crystals. The sensation was unmistakable. The labyrinth was aware of them. For the first time, Anna felt real fear. It's not of the darkness, not of the unknown, but of the intelligence behind it. Something ancient had shaped these tunnels. Something older than any civilization, more powerful than any natural force humanity had encountered. The tunnels were alive, and they were watching. The deeper the team ventured, the more the tunnels revealed themselves as something beyond human comprehension. Every step felt heavier, every sound amplified. The walls seemed to hum, not in echoes of their footsteps, but in a frequency that resonated with their own bodies. Dr. Ana Ribeiro paused in one chamber, her flashlight catching something remarkable. A cluster of crystals arranged in a precise spiral, larger than any they had seen before. They pulsed faintly, in rhythm with a deep vibration that seemed to come from the tunnels themselves. Anna reached out. The crystals responded, glowing brighter, as though acknowledging her presence. "It's alive," whispered one of the explorers. The words hung in the damp air, more a statement than a question. The tunnels began to affect more than sight and sound. Explorers felt subtle pressure changes, a sense of gravity shifting, as if the labyrinth itself was guiding them along specific paths. Some corridors previously easy to walk became unexpectedly steep or narrow. The team quickly realized that the tunnels were mutable, not static. Walls expanded, ceilings lowered, and passages twisted subtly to control their movement. Water continued to behave unnaturally. Pools shimmered with bioluminescent organisms, pulsing in time with the crystals on the walls. Some droplets floated upward before falling in arcs, as if the air itself had a life of its own. Anna speculated that the tunnels might generate energy. From these interactions, a network of living currents connecting every chamber. In one massive chamber, the team discovered the first chamber with markings unmistakably deliberate. Lines etched into the stone formed interconnected circles, arcs, and spirals. Yet the grooves were perfectly smooth, lacking the tool marks humans would leave. The patterns seemed to extend beyond what the eye could see, continuing along walls and ceilings in ways that suggested intelligence and purpose. The explorers were drawn deeper into the labyrinth. Each corridor seemed designed to guide them towards something central. The air grew warmer in some areas, cooler in others, creating currents that nudged them forward. Light from their flashlights bent oddly, reflecting in ways that made it appear the tunnels were alive. Occasionally, a low vibration pulsed through the walls, a rhythm that resonated deep in the chest. Explorers described it as a heartbeat, and some even claimed to hear faint whispers in languages they had never known. It was impossible to verify, yet the sensation was undeniable. The labyrinth seemed aware, testing their presence. Small creatures moved through the shadows, tiny bioluminescent beings that darted across walls and ceilings. Some appeared to float in midair, pulsing like the crystals. Their purpose was unclear, but they reinforced the sense that the tunnels were not just a geological phenomenon. The labyrinth was alive in every sense. The team also noticed faint traces of mineral growth on their clothing and equipment. Crystals embedded themselves subtly, glowing softly after contact. Even after leaving a chamber, the residual energy clung to their tools. It was as if the tunnels imprinted themselves upon those who entered. Leaving an invisible mark, in the largest chamber yet, the team discovered a natural amphitheater, formed entirely of rock and crystal. The ceiling soared hundreds of feet above, reflecting faint light from unseen sources. The walls shimmered with symbols that seemed to move subtly when not directly observed. Anna realized that the tunnels might be a repository of some form of knowledge or communication system far older and more complex than anything humanity had recorded. The explorers pressed on, drawn to the center of the labyrinth. The further they went, the more the tunnels tested them, corridors that twisted, rooms that shifted, sounds that disoriented, and lights that deceived. Their instruments struggled. Compasses spun wildly, cameras malfunctioned, and GPS signals were completely useless. Even their sense of time began to fail. Anna knew one thing for certain. The tunnels were designed, guided, and conscious. Were not merely caves. They were living, intelligent structures, ancient beyond imagination. And whatever force had created them was still present, watching, waiting, perhaps even aware of their intrusion. By now, the explorers were no longer just visitors. They were intruders in a space that had a life of its own. Every step they took seemed to be anticipated. Paths shifted subtly beneath their feet. Walls pulsed faintly, guiding or perhaps warning dashed them. Dr. Ana Ribeiro felt it first. A low vibration traveled through her chest, in sync with the crystals embedded in the walls. She realized the labyrinth was more than alive, it was aware. When the team paused, the vibration stopped. When they moved, it resumed, as if the tunnels were reading their movements and responding. Small accidents began happening. Equipment malfunctioned without reason. Cameras froze mid-recording. Lights flickered even with new batteries, and compasses spun wildly. Explorers whispered about shadows, moving on their own, distant whispers in languages none could understand. Fear began creeping into the team, though curiosity drove them onward. In one chamber, a natural staircase of rock and crystal spiraled upward into darkness. The explorers climbed cautiously, the crystals humming as if in greeting or warning. At the top, they found a vast chamber filled with enormous stone pillars. Each pillar had grooves and spirals glowing faintly with inner light. Some were shaped like pyramids, others like cones or domes. The symmetry was perfect. Nature had created something architectural, almost impossible and alive. Water flowing in the chamber behaved strangely. Streams reversed direction, droplets hovered, and mist formed intricate patterns that moved through the air as if alive. The explorers felt a tingling on their skin, and small bioluminescent organisms floated around them, pulsating with light in perfect rhythm with the crystals. It was as if the entire chamber was a heart, beating with energy. Anna traced her fingers along one pillar. Instantly, the crystal glow intensified. The vibrations became stronger, almost painful. The walls around them seemed to shift, contracting slightly, nudging the explorers toward the center. The labyrinth wasn't just alive, it was guiding them, forcing them toward something at its core. Suddenly, a low roar echoed through the tunnels. Not a sound of humans or animals, but a vibration deep in the stone itself. The explorers stumbled, shields up, flashlights shaking. Some crystals along the walls fractured with a faint ringing tone. Aina realized they were hearing the tunnels. Voice, or perhaps a warning. Every chamber they entered now felt like a trap and a test. Paths looped back on themselves. Stairs descended into impossibly deep pits, then curved to emerge elsewhere. Light bent strangely, creating illusions of more tunnels than existed. Time itself seemed distorted. Watches, clocks, even biological. Senses of day and night became unreliable. Then, in a chamber larger than any before, they found the first undeniable sign of intelligence. A massive formation of interconnected crystals. Naturally formed, yet arranged in patterns too precise to be random. It resembled a network, like a map, or perhaps a circuit. The pulsing light traveled along the crystals, creating a rhythm that the explorers felt in their bones. Anna studied it in awe. "It's communicating," she whispered. "It's trying to tell us something, but what?" The tunnel's language was not vocal, it was energy, vibration, and form. It spoke through the movement of air, the glow of crystals, the flow of water, and the arrangement of stone. The deeper they went, the more the labyrinth seemed to test them. Small hazards appeared. Rocks shifted unexpectedly, passages narrowed, and pockets of air became unbearably hot or cold. Yet the explorers pressed on, driven by a mixture of fear and wonder. Every obstacle, every strange phenomenon felt like part of a larger puzzle, a message written in stone, crystal, and water at the heart of the chamber. A faint glow illuminated something remarkable, a massive crystal formation unlike any they had seen. It pulsed rhythmically, larger than a human, almost alive in form. The energy it emitted was palpable, making the hair on the explorer's arms stand on end. It was as if the labyrinth itself had a brain, a center, a heart. Aina's breath caught. This is the core," she whispered. "Everything else, these tunnels, the crystals, the water, it all leads here. Everything alive in this labyrinth revolves around this point." The explorers stared in awe. None could speak. The labyrinth had revealed part of its purpose, yet the deeper mystery remained. Who or what had created this living network? And why? By now, every explorer could feel it. The labyrinth was no longer passive. Its energy pulsed through the walls, the air, and even through their bodies. Each step deeper caused a subtle vibration that resonated in their bones. It was as if the tunnels themselves were alive, reacting to their presence, testing them. Dr. Anna Ribeiro led the team cautiously. Their flashlights barely cut through the darkness, and shadows stretched unnaturally along walls and ceilings. Every chamber seemed to breathe. The hum of the crystals had grown louder, a low-frequency vibration that made speech difficult. Some explorers felt nausea. Others reported a strange sense of euphoria. The labyrinth was affecting both mind and body. In one massive chamber, they encountered a lake of crystal-clear water. The surface shimmered with iridescent colors, reflecting the pulsating glow of surrounding crystals. Small organisms floated just beneath the surface, glowing faintly. Aina knelt to observe them. As her hand approached, the creatures reacted, pulsing in a pattern that mirrored the labyrinth's core rhythm. It was clear now, the tunnels were alive, and everything within them was part of a single system. Suddenly, a low roar resonated through the stone. The explorers froze. The walls vibrated violently. Crystals along the ceiling fractured, sending sharp shards clattering to the floor. The labyrinth was aware. It was testing them, its heartbeat louder, its presence undeniable. Some passages began to shift subtly. Floors sloped unexpectedly, ceilings dropped, and narrow corridors seemed to twist in impossible ways. The explorers realized they could no longer trust their own senses. Compass needles spun uncontrollably. Watches and electronic devices failed. Even the sense of direction betrayed them. Anna signaled to the team to regroup. "We need to reach the core," she said, her voice tense. "That's where we'll understand the labyrinth's purpose, or at least part of it." As they proceeded, the energy intensified. Light from the crystals became brighter, almost blinding at times. Shadows moved independently of the explorers. Flashlights. Shapes seemed to form in the mist faces. Symbols. Impossible geometries. The labyrinth appeared to be communicating in ways humans could barely comprehend. They arrived at a chamber larger than any before. At its center stood a colossal crystal structure, towering like a cathedral. The pulse was immense, a rhythm felt through the chest, vibrating with such force that the air itself seemed alive. Water in nearby pools moved without cause, creating swirling currents. Even the temperature fluctuated violently, hot pockets followed by chilling drafts. Anna approached carefully, noting that the structure seemed grown rather than carved. Its edges were impossibly smooth, yet organic. Light traveled through it, refracting into brilliant patterns across the chamber walls. The labyrinth's energy was concentrated here. This was its heart. Suddenly the pulse intensified sharply. The walls themselves seemed to contract, nudging the explorers backward. The vibration increased, affecting their balance. Some felt tingling, sensations across their skin. Others heard faint whispers that made no sense but sounded urgent. The labyrinth was alive, aware, and now. It was responding directly to their intrusion. A team member touched one of the smaller crystals. Immediately, a surge of energy coursed through his body. His hair stood on end and he staggered, gasping. Anna shouted, "Step back!" But the crystal glowed brighter, pulsing in response to human touch. Every movement they made influenced the labyrinth, and every pulse felt like a warning or a test. Time began to distort further. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Shadows twisted and shifted. The labyrinth seemed infinite, stretching beyond comprehension. Explorers realized they were inside something older than humanity itself, something that might have existed for tens of thousands of years. And its intelligence, if that's what it was beyond human understanding. Anna whispered to herself. This isn't just a labyrinth. It's a living entity. And we are intruders. Yet curiosity pushed them forward. The labyrinth's core promised answers, perhaps the history of the tunnels, the purpose behind their formation, and maybe even a glimpse into the forces that had shaped the earth itself. The heart of the labyrinth pulsed with a force beyond comprehension. The colossal crystal at the chamber's center radiated energy so strong it vibrated through the air, the walls, and the explorers themselves. Every heartbeat seemed to echo with the pulse of the tunnels. Ana Ribeiro felt both fear and awe, knowing they were standing inside something alive. Something ancient, something beyond human understanding. The team approached cautiously. Every step caused the crystals to glow brighter, sending shimmering reflections across the walls. Mist swirled around them, twisting in impossible patterns, forming shapes that looked like eyes, faces, and symbols. The labyrinth was watching. Every movement was felt, every touch acknowledged. Anna reached the edge of the crystal formation. Its surface was smooth but irregular, organic in design, yet geometric in its symmetry. Light refracted through it, creating cascading patterns that danced across the chamber. The pulse intensified. The air itself seemed to hum with energy. A sudden vibration knocked several explorers off balance. The crystal emitted a deep, resonating tone, almost like a voice without words. It was communicating not in language, but in rhythm, energy, and light. The labyrinth's intelligence was undeniable, was aware of them, curious about them, perhaps even testing them. Some of the team attempted to touch smaller crystals around the room. Each contact sent waves of energy coursing through their bodies. Tingling visions and flashes of unknown landscapes filled their minds. Some felt moments of profound clarity. Others experienced dizziness and nausea. Alivit was interactive, sending impressions directly into their consciousness. Aina realized that these tunnels were not man-made, not entirely natural either. They were alive, grown over millennia, shaped by forces humanity could not yet comprehend. Every waterway, every crystal, every chamber was part of a single, vast organism, or perhaps an ancient intelligence rooted in the earth itself. Then, a remarkable phenomenon occurred. Tiny crystals around the chamber detached from the walls and floated in the air, forming shapes that resembled constellations. They moved in patterns that mirrored something ancient, perhaps even cosmic. Anna realized that the labyrinth might contain knowledge records, or messages encoded in energy, geometry, and light. Suddenly, the colossal central crystal pulsed stronger than ever. The light became blinding, mist thickened and swirled violently. The explorers could feel energy moving through the floor and walls, as if the labyrinth were alive and alive in a conscious, reactive way. Anna reached out and pressed her hand against the crystal. The pulse resonated through her chest, and in an instant, she saw visions. Vast underground networks, tunnels stretching beyond comprehension, living rock, glowing water, and symbols. Images of the planet's past flashed before her eyes. Creatures unknown, civilizations long vanished, and forces shaping the earth in secret. The labyrinth held memories, perhaps of the planet itself, encoded in its living structures. The explorers realized that the tunnels were guardians, protectors, and archivists all at once. They were alive to record, preserve, and react to intruders. Humanity had stumbled upon one of the Earth's most profound secrets, a conscious, living system beneath the surface, older than civilizations, holding knowledge and energy beyond. Human understanding. As the pulse slowly diminished, the explorers backed away, awed and terrified. They had glimpsed something extraordinary, but they could not take it with them. No machine could measure it. No camera could capture it. It was alive, fluid, and aware, something humans could only observe, never fully own. Anna turned to her. "Team, we've seen it," she whispered. "And it's more than we can explain. We can document it, study it, and perhaps learn from it, but we cannot control it. The tunnels are alive. They have existed for millennia, and they will outlast us all." The explorers began the long journey back to the surface. Every corridor, every chamber seemed subtly altered, as if the labyrinth remembered them, recorded their presence. The pulse of the crystals faded behind them, but a lingering energy remained. A hum in the air that suggested the labyrinth was never dormantly waiting. Once they emerged from the rainforest, sunlight struck their faces, blinding after the darkness. The world felt normal, yet nothing was the same. They had touched a part of the earth that no human had ever seen, and returned with knowledge and wonder beyond explanation.